Back to Sights and Stories, a Global Aussie Journey. I'm just going to give our regular followers a little bit of time to get on before we start again tonight. So it'll be about 10-30 seconds at the most and we'll get started. I hope everyone's had a chance to maybe catch up on some of the podcasts that I've released previously. I hope everybody's had a chance to do that. If you haven't, and this is the first time you're joining us, please make sure you go back to my podcasts and have a look. I've explored other sites in Japan, particularly in Tokyo, but I also covered one site in Kyoto, and that was Nijo Castle. So just a bit longer, just going to wait for the regulars to join, and then we'll get started. We'll get underway. All right. So like I said, there's plenty of episodes. If this is the first time you've joined us or you've missed one, you can go on to my previous podcasts and check them out. All right. I think we're ready to go. So g'day to everyone who has joined me tonight from around the world. Welcome to Sights and Stories, a Global Aussie Journey, the podcast where a qualified historian with a passion for travel and the past will take you to the world's most iconic destinations. Each episode will explore not just the sights, but the stories behind them. I want to give you expert historical knowledge and practical tips to assist your travel plans, and along the way, make your experiences to sites much more memorable at the destination. Today, we're going to continue a travel series on Japan. Let's take a look at arguably one of the most iconic bucket list items in Kyoto. We're going to go to Kiyomizu Dera, one of the most iconic, beautiful Buddhist temples in the most stunning traditional setting that you've ever seen. During the podcast, there will be plenty of opportunities to ask questions. Just put them in the chat and I'll stop along the way and answer them. I'll also dedicate the last 5 to 10 minutes of the podcast to any questions you may have regarding the sites or general questions about going to the temple or Kyoto itself or Japan. So if you want to privately message me instead, you can write an email and send it to sightsandstoriesau@gmail.com. This link is in the chat and also on the YouTube slideshow presentation that will be published following the podcast. Please also remember to press the follow button. This gives me encouragement and lets me know that you are enjoying the podcast. Feel free to also subscribe at any time. So sit back and enjoy. Let me give you a fascinating insight into arguably, like I said, one of the most beautiful Buddhist temples you can visit in Japan, and that's Kiyomizu Dera. So let's first talk about the site's history. Okay, this is arguably one of the most beautiful Buddhist temples, like I said, in all of Japan. It was founded in 778 during the Heian period beside the sacred Ottawa waterfall. One of the longest surviving Buddhist sects in Japan, called the Hozo sect, operated from this site. And today, the sect has disappeared in China and Korea, but it's flourished at the site in Kyoto and also in nearby Nara, the ancient capital of Japan. So according to legend, there was a monk named Kenshin who received a dream which instructed him to find a fountain of pure water up the Kizugawa River. On his journey, he arrived at Mount Ottawa, where he met a Buddhist hermit who gave him a piece of sacred wood. Out of this, Kenshin supposedly carved a statue of Kanon, Bosatsu, a Japanese term for a bodhisattva, or a person who is able to reach nirvana, but delays doing so to help people from suffering. The statue was enshrined in the hermit's hut by Kenshin to begin with. And then a few years later, according to legend, a famous general and court noble named Sakanoa hunted deer in order to pray for his sick wife. And after killing the deer, the general met Kenshin, who taught him about the sanctity of all life and about the compassionate Kanon. This made the general feel resentment or remorseful for killing the deer, and so he became a devoted follower of the Kanon and built a hall to keep the wooden statue in. And that hall would become the site of Kiyomizu Dera today. By the way, that famous general that we're talking about, Sakanoa, is famous for being appointed the second shogun in Japanese history. He was a valued counselor and minister of war for emperors during the Heian period of Japan. So, he wasn't just a nobody, he actually became someone very important in Japanese history. The site was then destroyed several times by fire. The pagoda, for instance, has been destroyed in 10 major fires before the current one that stands today. The current complex was built on the order of the third Tokugawa shogun, Iemitsu, and most of the current complex dates from 1633. So it's nearly 400 years old, which makes it a very significant traditional site. Kiyomizu Dera today is seen as so unique and significant that in 1994, UNESCO actually declared it, along with 15 other religious sites, and Nijo Castle, which we covered in a previous podcast, they were all declared as a World Heritage site. So it's considered to be one of the most valuable sites in Japan today. So that's a little bit of history into the site. Now, when one first reaches the main entrance of Kiyomizu Dera, they encounter the two-storied Neomon or blindfolding gate, which I've got a picture of in the podcast and also on the PowerPoint. The original gate was actually burnt down during fighting between daimyo in 1469. It was reconstructed around 1500. And it's interesting to note that most of the temple structures were destroyed in 1629, but this gate survived. So it's actually one of the oldest pieces of architecture at the site that's been left intact. And in 2003, the Japanese actually dismantled the stunning gate and refurbished it to ensure that it will last long into the future. The gate is an impressive 10 metres wide, 5 metres long, and 14 metres high. So it's got a stunning red colour or vermilion colour, perfect for those iconic Japanese photos. So if you're going to the site, definitely get yourself a photo in front of the gate. There's a set of stairs leading up to it, which make a really good photo opportunity. There's also, when you go there, you'll notice a large guardian lion-headed statues that are placed at the front, or komeinu. They are located at the base of the stairs leading up to the gateway, and they give the gate its blindfolding name as they're meant to stop worldly troubles entering the sacred grounds. So that's what the blindfolding gate is all about. All the worldly troubles are kept out of the sacred location by these lions. Now, inside the gateway, you'll actually find Buddha neo-guardian figures who add extra protection to the Buddhist temple complex. If you are at the temple at sunset, you'll find lots of people stopping at the gate to meditate on the glowing western sky. They're actually practicing what's called Nisokan, which is a meditation for envisioning paradise of the pure land while watching the setting sun. So the sun is meant to calm the mind, and it's considered essential by Buddhists to look into their soul and to reflect on important matters. So you'll often find people just stopped outside the gate looking at the sun setting, and what they're doing is trying to meditate, trying to clear their minds and trying to gain an insight into what paradise would be like. So it's a very interesting part of the temple complex. So that's what you'll first encounter. By the way, if you want to ask any questions along the way, please do so. We'll keep moving through the temple. So I'm going to take you on a walking tour through it. So after you go through that gate, you'll then see the Seimon or West Gate. It was constructed in 1633 and it's considered a gateway into paradise. The bell tower that lies to the left-hand side of this gate, it was constructed in 1596 and it has a beautiful vermilion or red colour, just like the gates that you see at the site. And it's also adorned with chrysanthemum flowers. The bell tower was restored in 1999 to bring the colours back to life. So it's a beautiful vermilion colour today. And each year, that bell is actually rung on New Year's Eve 108 times to symbolise the 108 earthly desires Buddhism acknowledges must be overcome to achieve nirvana. So you'll hear that bell ringing 108 times if you're lucky enough to be at the site on New Year's Eve. At the base of these structures, visitors can also see the blue dragon of Kiyomizu Dera. He's an incarnation of Kannon, a Buddhist deity revered as a goddess of mercy and compassion. So she is what we call a bodhisattva, or a person who is able to reach nirvana but delays doing so through compassion for human beings. I mentioned it a bit earlier on. So therefore the blue dragon is the defender and guardian of Kyoto. So the dragon's image is honoured and special prayers are said in its honour at special ceremonies held at the Buddhist temple during the year. In fact, the temple is home to the Kiyomizu Buddhist sect, like I said before, who originated in the ancient capital of Nara, which is not far from Kyoto. You can actually go to Nara with a quick train ride, and I would highly recommend doing that, and I intend to cover that site later on in another podcast. But the Kiyomizu Buddhists revere the Kannon and believe that Buddhists should contribute to society by working actively to promote public good by assisting the needy. So that's what their sect prides itself on. Okay, so we'll keep moving through the site unless there's any questions. I don't think there is at this stage. So once you get past the gates, you're then going to see a very impressive pagoda. It's going to be 3 stories in height, and it stands at roughly 31 metres tall. The structure was actually built in 1633, which is, getting close towards 400 years old. The roof of the pagoda is decorated with onigawara or oni tiles, which feature demonic or ogre faces. And the demons or ogres are meant to ward off evil spirits and prevent them from entering the sacred buildings of the temple. They have a similar function. Some of you might know something about European architecture and the use of gargoyles. They're exactly the same, pretty much, very similar in that they're supposed to get rid of evil spirits. And on the southeastern side or corner, you'll also see at this pagoda a dragon, regarded as the god of water, that protects the structure from fire, which is a constant danger when you've got earthquakes. And like I said before, this site has been destroyed by fire in the past. So, by the way, you might be thinking, how does this pagoda compare to other pagodas in Japan? It's actually not the tallest pagoda. Like I said, it is 31 metres tall. It's very impressive when you go see it. Beautiful vermilion colour, beautiful decoration. But it's actually not the tallest even in Kyoto. The tallest pagoda is the Toji Pagoda, which dates from the Edo period, and that is 54.8 metres tall. So the 3-story pagoda here is in fact the 5th tallest pagoda in Kyoto. So you've got the Toji, like I mentioned, at number 1, which is around about nearly 55 metres tall. Then you got the Yasaka Pagoda, which I will talk about in a future podcast. You've got that Dagoji Temple, which has a pagoda at number 3. Then an Aji Temple at number 4, and then the one here at Kiyomizu Dera, okay, which is number 5. But regardless of this, even though it is the 5th tallest pagoda in Kyoto, it's still regarded as a national treasure of Japan. Being nearly 400 years of age, you can understand why. Once you pass that pagoda, you will then see the Zugudu Hall. It was constructed in 1735, and it contains an image of Daizugu Bodhisattva. It was supposed to hear the desires and aspirations of each person, and it especially helps people with matchmaking and with childbirth. So you'll often see pregnant couples going to that part of the temple. If you pay 100 yen admission fee, you can also walk down a set of stairs of this structure to a black tunnel called the Tanai Magura. It's meant to symbolize the womb of a female bodhisattva. So coming out of it back into the light is supposed to symbolize being reborn again. Okay, so if you want that experience, you can pay the 100 yen. I've just got a question here. What are the concrete lantern looking things in the picture? Oh yes, you'll see lanterns spread across Buddhist temples and even gardens throughout Japan. They're a nice source of decoration, if nothing else. So yeah, there's quite a few of them as you go through the site. So moving through, so we've gone through the gates, we've seen the bell tower, we've now seen the impressive pagoda. Now we're going to get, you might be thinking, wow, that's awesome. Like already I'm enthusiastic about visiting the site, but you're going to see arguably the most impressive part of the temple once you go past the pagoda. Okay, this is the part of the temple that is most talked about, and that is the Hondo, or main hall. Now the structure actually stands on the cliff of Mount Ottawa. It's an impressive 166 wooden boards and 139 pillars made from hinoki cypress that suspend people on a 58-metre long stage, providing some fantastic views of Kyoto below. So this is where you see most people taking their photos from the temple. It's arguably one of the most beautiful sights, and a must if you go to the site to take pictures from. So take the opportunity to take some photos from the stage area. The tallest pillars are actually around 2 meters in circumference, and they're roughly 13 meters in height, around the height of a 4-story building today. Okay, so it gives you an idea of the height that you're up on when you're standing on this stage. Apparently, according to a superstition from Edo times, one's wish will be granted if they survive a leap from the floating stage. But this is no longer practiced at the site today, so do not try this, but it has been done in the past. The Japanese government actually had to pass an act which prohibited the jumping from the stage in 1872 because it was so incredibly dangerous. One record says that there was around about 234 people that have jumped from the stage, and 200 remarkably have survived the fall, but 34 have died. So as a result, as you can imagine, they don't like this practice taking place anymore. So that's an interesting side note to the stage area. So when you're standing on it and you're looking down below, just think, some people in the past have jumped off that. Horrible to think of, but that's what people have done. It's also interesting to note that the floating stage is built without the use of nails. So for Westerners, you're thinking, what? How do they keep the whole thing up if there's no nails? Basically, they use a construction method which places the wooden pillars in a lattice shape to support each other. So it's so stable that even though it was built on a cliff, the structure actually has a very high earthquake resistance. Japan experiences lots of earthquakes throughout the year, and this structure has stood for hundreds of years. So it's amazingly built. It's an architectural marvel how it's built. But yeah, no nails, guys. No nails. When you have a look at the pictures in the PowerPoint, you'll be amazed. The Hondo itself was built in 1633, so it's close to 400 years old, and it houses the most important image. There is an 11-headed, 1,000-armed Kanon Bodhisattva inside of it. The image is believed that the statues were created by Kenshin, the founder of the site. It's been classified as a hidden Buddha, or Hibitsu, because it's only displayed in public once every 33 years. It was last shown in March 2024, so you're not going to be able to see it anytime soon. So we're going to have to wait until 2050 whatever before it's shown again. So that's why it's called the hidden Buddha. Okay, this part of the temple can be particularly full on in terms of crowds because it is the most impressive part of the temple. So just be aware of that you might have to be prepared to be shoulder to shoulder with other people when you're standing on the stage. Rest assured, it's totally safe, but it does mean that you might have to wait a while before you can take those photos. Alternatively, there are some good times to go, which I'll cover later on. But if you're going in the middle of the day and in the early afternoon, you're going to experience a lot of people on the stage area. Okay. I've got a question there about talk some more about the womb. Someone said 1,000 yen. It's actually only 100 yen to go inside of that, but it's meant to basically connect people with being able to have a successful childbirth. So it's basically supposed to give one the feeling of a baby passing through the womb of a pregnant woman and being born, basically. So it's supposed to bring good luck for that process. So that's why a lot of pregnant people go to that part of the temple to experience that. There's also one other part of the temple that's actually connected to pregnancy, which I'll talk about a bit later on. So keep asking those questions, guys. I'll try and answer them as I go along. So now that we've been through the gates, we've had a look at a 3-story pagoda. We've gone on to arguably one of the most impressive parts of the temple, the floating stage of the Hondan, the main hall. We're then going to basically see below the floating stage, we're going to notice the Ottawa Notaki, which is in Japanese called the Sound of Feathers Waterfall. Okay, Kiyomizu Dera means pure water monastery. And for a very good reason. It comes from the Ottawa waterfall, where pure gushing water can be seen flowing today. This pure spring water is referred to as Konjiki Sui, or golden water, which means, or Enmi Sui, which means life-prolonging water. So visitors are encouraged when they come to the temple to purify themselves with the water. There's actually 3 streams of water, which you can see on the PowerPoint that I will show you. There's actually 3 streams of water. Just hold on a second, because I can see that. Yep, I think I've got it now. Yep, you've got basically 3 streams of water coming from the structure. Now, basically the lines, you can access this structure by walking up a set of stairs. So for those mobility issues, you are going to experience a few stairs at this site. I'll get to that soon. It's not that you can't experience most stuff though, okay? But you do access the 3 streams of water via a set of stairs. Now the lines can be quite long, particularly around, like I said, the middle of the day, early afternoon. You're going to have a lot of people lining up. Now there's some ladles that are present to conduct a purification ritual, which is believed to help people in one of 3 ways: longevity or good health, a fortunate love life, or success in exams. Now you should only drink from one of the fountains, so it's not like you can do all 3. So you've got a tough choice ahead of you. Do you go for the longevity? Do you go for your love life? Or do you go for success in your exams? Drinking from all 3 is considered greedy, and a no-no. So don't do that. Just make sure if you're going to partake in the purification ritual that you only drink from one of the streams. Okay, but like I said, you can access this area of the temple complex by going down a large set of stairs. But I would recommend that you don't do it immediately after you do the floating stage. And that you can visit this as probably the last part of the temple that you visit, rather than accessing it straight away, because there's some other sites you can see, and if you go down the stairs and you do the purification ritual, you're actually then going to have to walk back up the stairs, which kind of you don't want to do. If you want to conserve some energy, don't resist the temptation to walk down those stairs. Okay, just keep walking along, and you're going to get to another part of the temple. Okay, you're going to get to basically the Amadada Hall with a large golden statue of a Buddha inside. So what you'll see is you'll reach also the impressive Akunu Inn Hall. It stands directly above the Ottawa waterfall, and it dates from 1633. It also has a wooden floating stage, okay, and it's the best place to take a photo of the Hondo or main hall. So you'll often find that there's a lot of people crowding in this area as well, because what they're trying to do is get a photo of the floating stage looking back towards Kyoto. It's a smaller stage area, so it can get quite crowded, particularly in the middle of the day and the afternoon, but it's a great place to stop and take a photo as well. But yeah, make your way across that rather than going down the stairs to the waterfall, okay? So that's another part of the temple. And then as you're going off, as you're walking along, take the opportunity to now walk to the second smaller pagoda, okay, at the temple complex. So we're now going to keep walking. The second pagoda is actually called the Kiyomizu Pagoda. And Kiyomizu means an easy childbirth. So you know how before I was saying there's another part of the temple that pregnant people or couples like to visit? Well, it's this pagoda. Because it's believed that when a pregnant woman reaches the pagoda, the baby will be delivered safely. So they'll make their way across to the pagoda, which is a little bit of a walk, but it's a really scenic walk. It's not a long distance, probably a few hundred meters to get there. But you'll see some stunning views of Kyoto, and you'll look back on the floating stage and the pagoda next to each other and be able to get some really nice photos, which I show on the PowerPoint. But when you get to the pagoda, like I said, it is connected to childbirth, and you'll often see couples making their way there. If you come in autumn, you'll have the added bonus of being able to capture the same scenes with the most beautiful yellow or icho trees. And you'll also see some red Japanese maple trees called momeji. Okay, so you'll see those two types of trees. And basically you'll be able to get some really iconic photos with some beautiful garden foliage with the floating stage and the pagoda, which I show you in the PowerPoint slide. So if you want to see what it looks like in autumn, you'll get some beautiful, an idea of the beautiful sight from that slideshow. So from the pagoda, once you've reached that and you've taken some photos, you can walk then back to the Ottawa waterfall. And you can drink from the ladle, which we spoke about before, to get a prolonged life or to grant your wish in any way that you want. By the way, as I said to you before on previous podcasts, whenever you visit a shrine or a Buddhist temple, there's no compulsion to actually partake in the rituals. So you can just go there and watch what is happening and just show respect at the site rather than partaking in it. So you can just see how it's done. There's no pressure on you to partake in it. So if you're not a Shinto believer or a Buddhist believer, just take in the atmosphere. I think you'll find it fascinating just to have a look and to see how people try to worship Buddha and try to, get their wishes in life. There's no compulsion, okay? So I guess, the temple, another thing I wanted to say is that the temple offers visitors a chance to capture brilliant night photos from special night viewing events. And they're usually held during spring between late March and early April, and also in the autumn during late November and early December. So there are some periods where you can actually get some brilliant night photos at the site. So you're not restricted to just daytime during those times. So that's between late March and early April, and usually late November, early December. So they have some night viewing times, and I'd check them out if you get the opportunity to do so. So those times the temple's really lit up, and it's designed to capture photos of the brilliant colours of the cherry blossoms and the icho and the momiji trees, during autumn. There's also a night viewing opportunity in summer in August each year. So well worth considering. If there is a night viewing session, you can check it out on their official site of the temple, but be prepared for crowds. You're not going to be there by yourself, okay? Because they are very popular times of the year to go visit the temple. So just be aware of that. You also might be interested in what sort of festivals occur at the temple. There's the Sehi Ruie Festival, which is conducted several times a year. It's held on March 15th, April 3rd, and October 15th. And it's linked to that blue dragon that I mentioned before, the incarnation of the Kanon, which I spoke about. So during that ceremony, there'll be actually an 18-meter figure of a blue dragon that's paraded through the grounds and the temple complex. And there's also a variety of performers that will be adorned in costumes, and they'll have special prayer that's conducted for peace and to expel bad luck. So audiences will often chant. They'll chant a Namu Kanon, which means I take refuge in Kanon, and they'll pray for good luck. So if you're there during those dates, so that's March 15th, April the 3rd, or October 15, you can take in the festival. But again, be aware that it is going to be, there's going to be a lot of people there because these festivals tend to be very, very popular. So there's a couple of really good things to consider if you're going to the site. If you're going during autumn, going in the middle of summer, going at spring, going on those dates I just listed, you can definitely check out the site under different conditions. Just be prepared though for lots of crowds, like I said before. I've covered a lot of the site in terms of stuff. Somebody's asked a question there, what hours does it open? Generally, the site is open from 6 o'clock in the morning through to 6 o'clock at night. That's generally the time that it will be open, but they do extend hours into the night, like I said, for those night viewing hours on those special occasions. There's also one day of the year that's reserved for a 1,000-day pilgrimage. On this day, worshippers' prayer is equivalent to 1,000 days worth of prayers. So as you can imagine, it's a very popular day of the year. So the Kanon's blessings are said to be increased on this day, and the Hondo is open to the public both during the day and at night for this special event, which is usually held during August each year. Now, the specific date you'd have to check on the website, but that is another possibility. If you're going to Kyoto during August and you want to see that special occasion, you can do that as well. But like I said, on all the other days, it's usually open from 6 a.m. every morning through to around 6 p.m. most times of the year, except for summer, where it tends to stay open a bit longer, usually to 6:30 p.m. So, that's basically the opening hours there that somebody asked about. Now, are there any questions people would like to ask in regards to the site? Now's your time. You can throw them out there. If it's something general in terms of Japan or Kyoto as well, I can answer that. Because I want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to ask some questions about Kiyomizu Dera. Is it really busy? Somebody asked. Yes, it can get really busy. It can get really busy, like I said, in the mornings. Not in the mornings, in the middle of the day and the afternoons in particular. It's not uncommon when you get to this site to be walking in with hundreds of people all at once, going up the stairs and into the site. It does get really busy. It's very, very popular. Like I said, it's a bucket list item for people when they travel to Kyoto. This is a nationally renowned temple complex. It's equivalent to, say, Sensoji in Tokyo, okay, that we've covered on a previous podcast. There are going to be hundreds and hundreds of people that visit this site every single day of the year. So when's the best time to go, I guess, because it does get really busy, the best time to go is usually early morning. Okay, like most shrines and temples in Kyoto, if you want to go to the site and not experience a huge crowd, you want to get there really early in the morning. So it opens at 6 a.m. If you can get there before 8 a.m., 9 a.m., you're going to get the site, get nice photos of the site without too much push and shove, or not that you would do that, but you're not going to be shoulder to shoulder with people. So I would highly recommend going in the morning if you're going to go to the site. That's the best time to go. Somebody asked, is it less busy on a rainy day? Rainy days, sunny days. I guess rainy day, you might get a few less people, but there's still going to be plenty of people there. I mean, it is a big tourist site. So it's not just tourists that go there, but also Japanese people that travel to Kyoto. This will be one of the places they will go to if they're not from Kyoto. They will come here. So yeah, there will always be lots of people there. Probably a little bit less if it's a major storm. I'd imagine there wouldn't be people there, but it might be a little bit less, but there's still going to be plenty of people. Have you visited below the temple, the dark pit? No, I haven't personally paid the 100 yen to go into what's called the womb and out again. I've heard it's quite good, but I haven't experienced that. But I'm not going through childbirth, so it's not something that generally, I've been in that position to kind of do it. Not that you have to be going through childbirth, but it's particularly seen as important for people who are planning families and stuff to be going through that. But you can go through as a normal person if you want to, just pay the 100 yen and do it. But I haven't personally done it. There's so much to see at the site, without going in there. So I haven't personally done that. How long do I set aside to visit? That's a really important question. I would set aside at least a couple of hours, okay? Because you want to get some nice photos when you're there. It's very hard to get photos without people in them. So if you're going early morning, you're going to get those nice photos. Things to take photos of are, of course, the floating stage. But take photos from the floating stage too. Photos overlooking Kyoto. The pagoda is absolutely beautiful, as is the gateway going into the temple complex. And you'll want to walk across to the other smaller stage so that you can take a picture of the Hondo as well. So there are some, there's some iconic photo spots. And for that reason, you're going to take your time, and actually it's a really beautiful site. So I would say at least a couple of hours to visit this site properly. So you'd block out, a morning or an afternoon. If you go in the afternoon, you'll probably find it takes you a little bit longer because you will be with lots of other people to get those photos and stuff. So you probably give yourself an extra half hour to do things. And just remember, you probably won't, you might not get that absolutely perfect position to take the photo if you're going in that circumstance. But yeah, I would say at least a couple of hours. And I would say also that outside of the temple complex, there is the most amazing streets to wander and things to see, which I'm going to cover in another podcast. I deliberately haven't done it right now, but there is an amazing shopping streets and some amazing historic pathways and just beautiful settings around the actual temple complex that you must enjoy while you're there. So a couple of hours at the actual temple itself, but then you'd spend probably a couple of hours outside of it as well. So it'd be at least 4 to 5 hours in this area. So you'd have to block out a half day. A half day if you're going to visit this area, I would say, is ideal. Another question I get is, is it good for children to go to the temple? I think it is absolutely beautiful place to take the family because You get to show children some of the the traditional culture of Japan. You get them an insight into Buddhism from one of the most famous temples, that they can visit in Japan. You also you give them a chance to stretch their legs and get a little bit of exercise during the day. There's plenty of steps. And there's also, some really beautiful gardens and, views over the city of Kyoto to take in. So I think it's a really good opportunity for children to experience traditional Japan. So I definitely take children. I don't think there's any problems doing that. And the site's not too big that they're going to get lost or, wander off sort of thing. There's clearly designated paths. You don't have to worry about safety kind of things in that regard. The floating stage has rails all the way across it that would prevent any children hurting themselves as well. So it's definitely a place that you can get children, take children to. Now there's a question there about taxi, bus or train. How do you recommend getting there? You can take a train, but it's going to be a little bit of a walk. Buses will get you close to the site and you can walk it up. Taxi, of course, a bit more expensive, but you can get there. Bus is what generally most people take a bus and they get dropped off close by and then they walk it in. But if you're coming from Kyoto Station, a taxi's not a bad idea. If you want to get to the site quickly and get dropped off really close to it, a taxi is not a bad idea and it's not going to cost you too much. I don't think it's going to break the bank getting a taxi from Kyoto Station to here because it's actually not too far, particularly if you're going in the morning where there's not going to be much traffic first up. So, you might be fine with a taxi. It is a little bit out. It's a little bit less accessible than some other sites in terms of you've got to kind of walk a bit to get inside the temple complex. So compared to some others, like I mentioned Nijo Castle last podcast, which is directly outside of a station, you're not going to get that here. There's no station directly outside the temple. It's not too far away, but, it's going to be, it's not exactly straight on top. But the streets leading up to it are beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. So you will get a really good view of traditional Japan by actually walking up to the temple anyway. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Somebody usually asks, what is the best time of the year to go? This site is good at any time of the year to go to. Don't be put off. Whenever you're in Japan, make sure you go here. I think it's one of those sites you have to visit when you're in Kyoto for the first time. If you're going there for the first time, definitely don't miss this temple. Okay, it's one of the most spoken about, along with a couple of others which I'll cover in future podcasts. But this one is definitely one to put on your list. Okay, and it doesn't matter when you go. Of course, if you go in spring and autumn, you're going to catch those blossoms and the beautiful foliage. But don't be put off. Any time of the year is a good time of the year to go to it. Okay, I wouldn't be put off with that. Now, are there any other questions people have out there? Anyone else want to ask any questions? I can't see anything there yet. I think I covered the question about do you need to be Buddhist to go, which is something that people are usually worried about when they come to Japan, to shrines or temples. They often think about, should I go to these places because I'm actually not, I'm not Buddhist, or I don't follow the Shinto belief. Like I said before, you don't need to participate in any of the rituals, and you're not going to be frowned upon, for not doing that. As long as you respect the place, you'll be fine. As long as you respect the traditions, okay, you'll be fine. And I think hopefully you'll be able to understand more about why things are done as a result of what I've just spoken about. Just show respect. Don't photograph worshippers. and you're fine with watching without participating. But please, don't photograph people. There's a big privacy thing in Japan where you shouldn't be photographing people. Okay, so make sure you don't do that. Are there any other questions out there? A question I often get asked is, does it cost anything to enter? Yes, it does cost a small amount of money to enter. It costs 500 yen for adults and 200 yen for students, whether you're visiting by day or on a special night viewing event. Doesn't matter, it's the same price. So please make sure you bring cash. Okay, you got to bring coins. Like most shrines and temples in Japan, they don't accept digital payments. Okay, so you must make sure that you bring some cash to the site to basically be able to access it. So save up a few, 100 yen coins or whatever, so that you're ready to pay when you get there. But, it's pretty cheap. 500 yen is very cheap to go into this site. It's the most beautiful site. So if you're somebody who's budget conscious, don't let that cost put you off. You'll more than think, wow, it was worth every yen that I spent. Okay, so, but that's how much it costs, and there's no need to pre-purchase as well. It's not like you have to book in a time to get there, unlike other sites in Japan where it's a must to book in and reserve things. You don't do that with this temple site. Kiyomizu Dera does not take reservations or prior booking. You just walk up to the temple complex and you pay your money and you'll be able to enter. Okay, and it doesn't matter whether there's hundreds of people in front of you, you'll get in. Okay, so that's an important question. Somebody asked, do you have to take your shoes off there? No, you don't. You don't have to take your shoes off. So even though it's a wooden stage area, there's no need to take your shoes off in that area. Okay, unlike some of the castles and palaces that you will visit in Japan, you don't have to do that here at Kiyomizu Dera. Okay, so no need to do that. I did mention mobility before. Can people with mobility issues access the site? The answer is yes. I know I've spoken about some steps, and it might have concerned a few people. You do, if you're somebody without mobility issues, yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a workout, but hey, that's a great thing. It gives you a bit of room to eat some stuff in the local streets afterwards, so that's not such a bad thing. But the answer is yes for mobility issues. You can access the site. You won't be able to get up close to the Neomon Gate, okay, or the 3-story pagoda or the bell tower, but the temple provides wheelchair-friendly access to the Hondo or main hall, so you'll get to experience the floating stage. And all the public areas throughout the grounds leading from the Hondo are accessible to wheelchairs by using a no-step barrier-free route. Okay, so you can make your way across to the other pagoda. So there is a disability temple map that's available at the entrance to the main hall when you pay your money to get in. So you can ask for that, and they will basically guide you as to what route to take across the site. Okay, so if you're worried about mobility issues, you can definitely access the site of Kiyomizu Dera. Okay, there's a question there about, is there a souvenir shop? No, it's a religious site, so unlike some religious sites, there's not really a big shop there to buy things at, but I would say that there's some fantastic souvenir shops just outside of it. So if you're thinking, oh, it's a shame I'm not going to be able to pick up any souvenirs, you'll pick up some fantastic photos. So you'll be able to do that while you're in the temple complex. And then outside of it, a stone's throw away, you'll be able to see heaps of souvenir shops. Some people would say they're a bit overpriced compared to some other locations that you could buy them from. But hey, time saver, being close by to a major site. Time is sometimes worth money, so it's not that bad. The prices are not extravagant compared to other souvenir shops that I've seen. They are a little bit inflated, but not too bad. So there's definitely some opportunities to buy souvenirs in the local area, plenty of them, and also to experience some of the local foods and stuff as well. But like I said, I'm gonna talk more about that in a future podcast. I'll give you all the details about that. So don't worry, you'll hear plenty more about this area of Kiyomizu Dera a bit later on. Okay, in terms of that. Are there any other questions out there that people would like to ask? I'm just seeing. I think I've answered most of the questions, if not all of them. I'm just having a look. I think I've answered all of them on there. But if you've got anything, just send it in now. Put it in the chat. Like I said at the start of the podcast, if you prefer to email me privately, you can do that as well at sightsandstoriesau@gmail.com. So if you prefer to get some individual advice or just some handy hints about the site, then you can do that. I don't think there's any other questions. So I really do. Oh, hold on. What does the name of the temple mean? I think I covered that earlier when I was talking about the waterfall. So when you get to the waterfall, there's a name for it. I'm just trying to think off my head again. What that is. I'm just trying to go through it. Bear with me for a second. It means pure water monastery. So it comes from the waterfall. So Kiyomizu Dera means pure water monastery. That's what it means. So it's from the gushing spring water that comes from the Ottawa waterfall and can be used to grant people their wishes with matchmaking or longevity or success in exams. So that's where it comes from. So it's from the water that flows at the site, which makes it a really beautiful setting. Like I said before, this is a place you have to go see in Kyoto, okay? Unless there's any other questions out there, I think I've answered them all. Yeah, I think I've answered them all. So I really do hope that this episode has provided you with both a historical and also an architectural insight into Kiyomizu Dera, okay? I hope that you've been able to gain an insight into how to tackle the site as well. A little bit of tips and strategies in terms of saving your legs a little bit in terms of the steps and how to negotiate that side of things as well. And I hope along the way that you've also been able to learn a little bit more about Buddhism and how it's practiced at the site as well. I will cover some more Buddhist sites and Shinto sites through the podcast with the view of giving you just a little bit more of an insight into the religious beliefs along the way. So it really builds up your knowledge in regards to that as well. So hopefully knowing the history of the site should make your site even more memorable and special now. If you want to see pictures of some of the sites that I've mentioned, be sure to check out my YouTube video attached to the podcast. Don't be scared to also press the follow button, guys. This will help you connect with future podcasts, and it also means that I know that I'm doing something right and gives me encouragement to continue exploring Japan with people. So please follow me. Just press that button. If you have any further questions, like I said before, please feel free to post them. Remember that site that's attached to the pin to the chat. You can contact me there privately if you wish. Be sure to catch my next episode on another exciting part of Kyoto. I'm endeavouring to take you on another journey through this wonderful city. Next time, I think we'll go on a walking tour through some of the most famous parts of Kyoto, okay? I'm not going to give too much more away than that. I love going on walking tours through this city because I think it's just a wonderful city to visit. So I'm going to take you on another walking tour next time, but it's not going to be to a shrine or a temple as such. It's going to be in a different part of the city. So until then, I wish you all safe. I wish you that you're all well and safe travel for those who are abroad. Catch you later, mate.